It was a somber week for the U.S. as Americans look back on the attacks of 9/11 a dozen years later. So where do we stand now as a nation and how we are seen in the world? We're back with our panel here talking about a dozen years later. Let me take the contrarian view, if I may, to begin this discussion. I've heard a lot of people say when you have these elaborate remembrances, what you do is you empower the terrorists by saying we will never forget, nor should we. But by having these elaborate demonstrations, we almost empower them, and we tell them again that they have won, and this is a very important topic that we will talk about forever, and you really hurt us.
I think we tell them that they lost. I think when we do that, well, because we're just like, you know, we're remembering what happened. We love the people that we lost, but we're still hanging there strong. I mean, we just put the spire up, on, you know, the Freedom Tower on the World Trade Center. So I think we keep showing over and over again how they did not beat us. I really do. So I think that the 9/11, and it being so many years later, that we are stronger than ever.
It's only been 12 years, and I think it's still very much a raw wound to our country. And I think you can see that from many of the, if you watch any of the services or attended any of the services, it's still very much just a raw. It's very emotional for many people, and the loss is still there for so many people. I think as a country, as a nation, we still need to have these memorials, and they'll keep going on, just as Pearl Harbor. We continue, that is also a reminder that
on a grand scale every year, as we have seen, or as time goes by, is it reduced a bit?
Well, as we get away from these anniversaries, then it'll become the 20-year anniversary, and then the 25, and then the 50. I mean, that invariably happens to these major events. But we're still very, very close. It was only 12 years ago.
Good point.
Yeah, and the phrase is never forget.
Yes.
We won't. I don't think we're showing that we're weak. I think we're showing, as you said, that we are stronger. Take a look. Look at what's going on down at Ground Zero. We've got another World Trade Center that's prettier, it's bigger, our people have joined together. You didn't make us weaker, you joined us together and made us stronger.
Are we in a better place, A, security-wise, and B, as a nation 12 years later?
I think most definitely, because whenever this happened, I was in the White House, and you know what our security was? Basically, we had people running down the hall saying, "Get out, get out."
Yeah.
That wasn't good. That's not the way it is now. So because of Homeland Security being formed, and because we're so aware, I mean, there hasn't been another attack certainly in the city, and we had the Boston situation, and that was terrible.
That was a fringe terrorist
attack. Yeah, but that was
attack,
strange and smaller. But I think we're much safer now and much more prepared and vigilant.
Yeah, look what they do in New York City for Times Square on New Year's Eve. They stop all the subways. You've got thousands, tens of thousands of plainclothes policemen in the crowd. Everybody is sanctioned off. No terrorist is going to come within 5 miles of Times Square. Yeah, I think we're much stronger.
Well, would you say that both President Bush and President Obama have done a good job so far?
I would say yes.
So you would agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Would you agree as well?
Yeah, but I think that the very nature of terrorism is that it's something that we're not anticipating. So we've done a lot of things to anticipate, but they may be planning something that we just don't know of yet. The subway system in New York City, for example, is still very wide open.
Yes.
Anybody can go down there and pretty much do whatever they want. And so we're still vulnerable in that, and I don't know that there's necessarily a solution to that. We certainly don't want to have to go through X-ray detectors before we get onto the subway. Just as I think in some respects the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. You go to the airport and you have to take your shoes off every time you get on a plane, which is just a little excessive, especially when they're making little old ladies do it. And it's just so I think there is a balance there, but we're always going to be vulnerable because we're an open society, and that's never going to change.
And good points, by the way, all of you. Let's change topics if we may. Diana and Nyad, have you been following this?
Yes.
A 64-year-old woman swims, and I have a pool in the backyard. I could hardly get to the other side.
I'm with you.
But this woman swims from 90 some odd miles from Cuba to Florida, and now they're saying she didn't do it fairly, that she might have stopped and had some water and food off the boat. She might have held on to the boat. Right. She did it without with a shark cage, which is not how you're supposed to do it. What say you about this situation in which you're taking this really fabulous feat and belittling it a little bit?
Well, much of the criticism has come from other distance swimmers, people who, there's these, it's a very obscure sport, if you will, and there are people who, there's English Channel rules, so the English Channel is 27 miles from France to England. And there's rules that go along with that. But what swimming the English Channel is very different than swimming from Cuba to Florida. And there's dangers in there that aren't present in the Strait. And so she wore a suit basically to protect her from deadly jellyfish. She wore a mask to protect her from that, because this is her 5th time doing that, let's not forget. And the last time she was stung by jellyfish. So she said, to protect myself, to protect my own life, I need to wear some of these. And the criticism was, well, she wore that equipment and therefore it doesn't count.
That's ridiculous.
Wouldn't that make her heavier?
That's ridiculous. I mean, she should be able to wear whatever she wants. If she's got a floating, she's flipping around. I mean, that is a big feat. Congratulations to her. They just sound bitter.
Exactly.
No, maybe considering that, maybe they should change the rules and add all of these cages and masks, etc.
Well, are there rules?
That's exactly the question. So there are rules for the English Channel, which are pretty well established, but there aren't many people who attempt to swim 100 miles from Cuba to Florida.
She's a pioneer.
So she is exactly that, and she is setting the rules. And she never agreed to swim by the English Channel rules.
I mean, what's the committee called that does this? I mean, I don't see how they're criticizing her with, right, she's a pioneer. She's starting out. She doesn't want to get stung by jellyfish by swimming a long distance. Good for her.
I wasn't being facetious. You're wearing a suit, which means you have to pull more over 90 miles. Doesn't that make it even harder to do?
I can't even swim in the deep end of the tank.
Exactly.
I don't know.
What about her age? What does it say that she's 64 years old and doing this when a lot of people are retired and they're watching the afternoon movie with a cup of coffee?
Did you see her arms?
Yes.
She is amazing. I mean, I think she's inspirational, at least.
Somebody needs to erect a statue after her. I mean, that's like a big deal.
Yeah.
In the 60s and she swims this, and I don't know what's wrong with these people, but they're not right. They're wrong in the head.
Do you think that will ever be repeated? Will somebody,
Probably, yeah.
Absolutely.
Probably.
There will always be somebody who wants to break the record.
Yeah.
She did it, I think, in 53 hours. Somebody in a few years will want to do it in 50 hours and 48 hours. And so, yeah, there'll be people who want to do it differently. And, there was also some controversy about how quickly she did it, because she got into a current, part of the Gulf Stream.
Well, how do you
current.
plan that or not?
Oh,
plan
exactly.
Well, you can't.
Agree.
You can't.
Who are these people?
But she got lucky and got into a good current to help her carry her to Florida.
Well, that's the way it goes.
Exactly.
What are the rules for the English Channel crossing? You don't need a shark cage.
No shark cage. You can't wear. You're not supposed to wear a suit or a mask or anything like that. So it's very different. But there are no jellyfish in the English Channel. There are no sharks in the English Channel. Nothing that is going to eat you while you're swimming across it. So
that's good. Well, that's different. Yeah. Scenario.
Maybe a French yacht or something, but that's about it.
So there's no politics associated with this.
I'm
sorry, Dee Dee.
Not at all. I'm all for the swimmer.
But let's change the subject, if we may, again, and let's talk about this devastating fire along the Jersey Shore that happened this week. And if you saw the photographs, they're just heartbreaking in the video. I mean, these poor people who were socked by Sandy less than a year ago now have to rebuild, at least, and you're seeing some of the video now, 4 blocks of 50 businesses were lost. I don't know what started it. I know where it started because I was watching the reports as well. But how do people psychologically get over this, and how many people are going to throw in the towel and say, hey, obviously they're sending me a message, I have to move. I got to retire and move to North Carolina. How do you get over this?
Well, in New Orleans, this kind of disaster happens all the time. I mean, not fires necessarily, but they keep getting pounded and pounded and pounded, and they rebuild. So I think, the American spirit, I'm sure do you really think people from the Jersey Shore are going to leave it? I don't think so. I think they'll go back. I mean, it's so tragic that, they've been dealt 2 blows, but I think they'll be back.
Well, I applaud their spirit, but I hope they had a lot of insurance.
Yes, I agree. And maybe some of them did not, based on the Sandy.
Well, but I think that this is such an iconic part of Jersey. It's really part of America. It's part of the and you'll in some of the footage you'll see Governor Christie went there to a fire. Governors don't often show up at fires. The governor went to this one because he understands that this is a very big deal to New Jersey. This is where they filmed the Jersey Shore. This is where people have been when they were kids. The custard shop that burned down has been there for years. And so I think the governor knows this, and the state is going to come to these people, come to their aid, and they're going to rebuild.
I think we all agree it will be rebuilt. There's no doubt about it. But I'm talking about the psyche of that town and of this state to have to endure this once again.
Jersey strong.
Yep. But you know what? You think about it, Frank, it's like, okay, we've gotten 2 blows. It can't happen again. So maybe they're thinking they're done. That'll be the end of the disaster. So, perhaps. But it's just so sad all the way around.
It really is.
And
they'll be back.
You think they'll be back?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we saw some of the video, and as I mentioned, it just heartbreaks, especially the Funhouse sign that just fell off the, that pretty much, there's your iconic photograph there. I have read everything I can about this. It happened in an ice cream shop underneath the boardwalk. I'm just hoping, as you are probably as well, that it wasn't a joke, kids doing a prank, some sabotage or something like that.
Oh my God.
Does anybody think that maybe because of the disaster before that things were just weakened and infrastructure wasn't quite what it needed to be or something like that?
No, but when you go back to rebuild, you build fresh, and actually you build back stronger, so it's not that. Nobody knows at this point, but you know, I send them my good wishes.
It is a scene of a criminal investigation, which most big fires are, and I think we just need to wait to find out if it was arson or not.
I agree with that. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left, so we're going to throw out some topics as well. Listen, I like to go back to the mayoral election, if I may, because I thought that was fascinating stuff. What's next for people like Wiener? We jokingly call our favorite politician.
I don't want to know.
Well, I don't know. I can see him doing some commercials, a reality show. I mean, you know,
I know he can do divorce court.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, there's been a lot of talk about Elliot Spitz's wife just waiting this out, and she's on the verge of filing for divorce. I don't believe that. I think they've been together long enough that she pretty much knows his MO. But
I hope she leaves.
I hope she leaves him. She needs to leave him and be done with it.
You bring up a very good topic. These politicians who try bring their wives out when they make these embarrassing statements. I've often wondered, and I've discussed it with my friends as well. Why would you have your wife standing there in this very embarrassing moment, just so you can say 10 years later to your kids, "Well, she supported me." Well, what?
Yeah, I think
the governor's wife in South Carolina said, I'm out of here.
Yeah, good for her.
She's the one that said, I'm not going to stand.
I wish she'd run against him. I was hoping she would run against him. That was thought about.
No, there was a time, I would say, 20 years ago or so, that people wanted to see the wife there because it meant the family stood together. But I think that society is changing, and now we want to see the wife walk away and have respect for herself.
Yeah, when you see the wife, holding back tears next to, Spitzer, standing next to Wiener, standing next to so many of these disgraced politicians. I'm looking at the wife.
I was going to say McGreevy.
Yeah, McGreevy was the worst one.
He brought his mom and dad out just for good measure. But I'm looking at the mom and dad in that case and the wife and saying, those poor people. I'm not even listening to the politician. I just feel so bad for the wife.
But historically, what politician hasn't cheated on their wife? I mean, if you look back, no,
she's right.
Someone did a survey. I think, well, he did have.
What?
Yeah, from what I've read.
Jackie, we have just a couple of minutes here. To start this might go on for 15 minutes.
Look, they
for sure now.
There was a survey done, I cannot quote you where it came from, but they said that there were 3 presidents they were sure did not cheat on their wives. The rest did. And we think John F. Kennedy was a great president. Look at